Morning, everybody. Welcome back to the 22 panels Fourth World Book Club. Um, I'm joined by Sean Harklerode, currently star or is Misery done?
Misery is done.
Okay.
Well, in one
Recent
sense.
So recently in Misery, coming up,
recently in Misery.
Holiday Spirits at the Driehaus Museum. Symbol.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay. Holiday Spirit at the Treehouse Museum and Mark Pratt, who, will get back to work one of these days.
Someday I'll want me. Somebody want. Yeah. I have a project in cooking, but can't talk about it. So,
uh, Issue 9 of Forever People, Mr. Miracle, and New Gods. Issue 148 of Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen. Uh, there's some great art. I think two books that I found almost unreadable with their great art, and two books that I thought were really fascinating and had great art. Um, but I'll let you guys take it off because you're way more Kirby aficionados than I am. So before I assume that I speak for the group.
well,
I feel like I think you said it pretty well there. Two good issues. Um, I I was telling Mark yesterday. Sometimes I find this a bit of a slog. I love the art, but I love Scott, Bree, and Barda, but otherwise just the characterizations. I'm not invested in these characters. I appreciate the art and the scope and grandeur of the storytelling, but it's missing a lot of human element for me to really be invested in and want to read these every month.
yeah. I mean, the famously I've spoken about this that the when I was working on my Stan and Jack show, uh, that I read all of these in a flight from Chicago to London. We were going on vacation, and I thought I was going to lose my mind. And I think that that really is why that, and to any Kirbyites out there, this is not me saying Jack sucks
Not at
at
all.
all, but it is saying that I do think that Jack, the way these books play out, it feels like I'm throwing shit against the wall. I'm throwing shit against the wall. I'm throwing against shit against the wall. And then if something sticks, he doesn't stop. He just keeps throwing shit against the wall,
Right.
right? And you know, uh, a line that some people had a problem with in my play would be when Stan says to Jack, "I gave you humanity." And I think that you know, it's unfair. It's unfair to constantly bring up Stan, right?
Right.
But I do think that that partnership, it's sort of like when you talk about Wings or John Lennon's solo albums, or like it's all got to go through the refraction of the Beatles, right? So like so much of this goes through the reflection of early Marvel, and that I think Stan as an editor, Stan as a dialoguist, uh, would have told Jack to stop at some point and like let's dig into this, right? Um, that that said, because I don't want to turn this into the Stan and Jack conversation,
Right.
Well,
but
I want to ask a question along those lines,
yeah,
though, but not really Stan and Jack. And this is just that you guys are both much more versed in Kirby than I am. Um, Probably my favorite thing that Stan Lee ever wrote was Silver Surfer Parable with Mobius. And I think it's because Mobius had the clout to rein Stan in and make him stay in his place, make not be half-assed with any of the dialogue, and like not describe the picture, you know. Um,
Well, I mean,
and therefore
that's
he was doing what he was best at and allowing Mobius to do what he was best at. So I'm using this to ask, is there any work where Jack worked with a talented writer that appreciated enough what he did that he was allowed to do what he did best, but still had somebody who did the writing better than he did?
uh, look, man, you're going to honestly ask me that question? It's early Fantastic Four.
Okay. I mean,
I mean, like,
I was trying to say
because
other than Stan.
right, yeah,
Did he ever do it again?
uh, no, because look, I've always said this is that the two great periods of Jack Kirby are the 40s, where he's working with Joe Simon,
Right.
and the 60s, where he's working with Stan. So, I mean, I suppose, like, to answer your question, I would say that when he was working with Joe Simon,
Joe Simon. Yeah.
there was a great pushback. But I think that once, for whatever reason, that, because there's plenty of anecdotal evidence, right? And part of the real problem of having these conversations is everything is anecdotal information.
Oh yeah.
Because every time you
Oh
ask
yeah.
Jack what happened, he was like, and he like famously had a bad memory, just like Stan.
Well, I
But
mean,
is that,
he
but
clearly didn't sleep a lot, and like part of memory is like the first 4 hours that you sleep, your brain gets squeezed out, and the next
right.
4 hours that stuff gets organized into file cabinets. So
Mhm.
if you're not getting that 8 hours, you may actually just like lose stuff, and, and you'll certainly not have easy access to it.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, and Sean should, but I mean that if for what you're asking outside of Stan, I think it would be Joe Simon.
Okay. I mean,
And
and I actually ask. I mean, I want to make it clear to anybody who might be listening who thinks otherwise. I ask out of reverence, because like almost no Kirby book, if I just ignore the words, isn't like fantastic, and I can often like create a story in my head of what's going on, etc. Um, I don't think Stan always did him justice, even in the early Fantastic Four years. You and I disagree on some of that. I think they had some absolute moments where they were in sync. There dozen or so Fantastic Four issues that I think are among the best comics ever done. And there are a lot of them that I'm like,
well,
they weren't on the same page with each other. They're
yeah,
both
but
doing good things, but not together. More like,
but I also think that that's the the conflict, the rubbing up against each other and pushing each other in different directions is also part of the process and part of why that stuff works so well.
right.
Certainly, if we want to talk about Stan and Steve Ditko, there was a lot of pushing against each other there. Um, but also,
Well, but see,
Ditko, when asked, Ditko always maintained that it was a partnership with Stan. He
well,
wasn't
but
always happy in that part.
that I mean, it's funny that you bring that up, because I actually think a lot more of the Lee Ditko Spider-Man, and I haven't read enough of the Lee Ditko Doctor Strange to speak as literally about it. Sure, I can see that they pushed up against each other, but they worked together.
Sure.
Sometimes with Stan and Jack, I don't feel like they pushed up against each other. I feel like they ignored each other.
Well, I mean, I think that's part of what I'm talking about. Like,
Right.
I think that a lot of the non sequitur, okay, let's get back to Fourth World. A lot of the
Right.
non sequitur stuff that we see or the like something will happen in one panel and then the next panel it seems like it's all resolved and you haven't seen anything, like that was the stuff that Stan would smooth out as best he could, right?
Right.
And that to me, that's the conflict, that's the pressure of working against each other and trying to make it into something. Plus, look, Jack Kirby's the king. He is the he defined comic book artistry for basically the entire industry. He defined how to draw a comic book in a dynamic
Hmm.
and interesting style. He is a master of that. And I feel like I'm talking too much, but I'm going to finish this thought
You're
process.
not.
He is also uh, the greatest idea man in comics history. Like even this stuff, like look at how much
Oh
DC
yeah.
has mined from this.
Hmm.
But as I've said before, I think that other writers and artists who've taken this stuff and developed it made it more interesting.
Right.
But I think Jack's story sense, moving the story from panel to panel, page to page,
Right.
is, and it may be like theoretically, I could say it maybe is an ADHD sort of thing or something like
Right.
that, where it's just like, okay, now I'm bored with that. I'll go on to this next
Right.
thing. And, but there's just so much of that. And there's
Yeah.
so much of because Jack is writing, he's drawing, he's editing, he's running the whole show. There's
Right.
no one to say, hey, hold on a second.
Right.
This,
And I guess I mean as I listen to you as I think about this, I think that when it strikes me the most is when I read his best work. Because like the Mr. Miracle and the New Gods issue that we read this month are really, really good, but they wouldn't take much to be absolutely legendary.
yeah. Um,
But the ingredient to make it absolutely legendary was just not part of Jack's toolbox. He didn't have that ability to make slightly smoother dialogue, that ability to make certain that you follow along with the grandeur in his head.
right. Um, Look, I'll read, like I just told you guys, I've been reading this Marshall Rogers Brightest Days and Darkest Nights
Mm-hmm.
book that Tomorrow's just put out. And in there is a interview that John B. Cook did with Marshall Rogers in Jack Kirby Collector magazine. And uh, like he has a lot to say about Jack, the obvious total reverence for Jack, but he's like, uh, about the Fourth World stuff, did you like it? I thought it was interesting, but it wasn't Jack, but it wasn't. Jack is a great storyteller, but he's not a writer, and the team of Lee and Kirby was a good combination. I think Jack needed someone to write a little more depth into the dialogue between characters because Jack's writing was more sort of stating of the obvious rather than bringing out the deeper human element in his dialogue.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, I mean, like, and there's a whole bunch of little bon mots about in that particular interview that I was like, oh yeah, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But that said, I mean, like, if we want to get to the actual books we're talking about, uh,
Well, let's do the quick thing. Does anybody want to say anything about Jimmy Olsen?
I will say this: the digital version that I've been reading,
Yeah.
at the end of that issue, they have a bunch of Jack's pencil pages
Okay.
No.
from from you know, and let me tell you this. I had never really, most of the time when I see somebody put up the pencil pages and talking about the redraw of Superman's head and keeping it on model, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's Kirby. Why are you changing Kirby? But then I look at these full pages and here's some of the things that I would say. The head doesn't bother me. It looks like a Jack Kirby version of Superman. Jack Kirby, to save his life, could not draw the Superman emblem. I wish I could. I mean, I don't have a screen share for my Kindle that I'm looking at here,
Right.
but like it is literally, I guess it's vaguely recognizable, but it is not the Superman emblem as so. I guess what I'm saying is that Carmine Infantino may have had some uh, solid ground to stand on. But yeah, no, otherwise, that the Jimmy Olsen, uh, the revisal of, I mean, like the guy, the volcanic whatever dude. I mean, it just felt like a warmed over Doctor Doom shit.
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
Right. I'm flipping through Forever
And I
People
still
again.
think Volcanum looks a little like Stan.
Yeah, there's a definite element of that. It's certainly not as much of a character assassination as Funky Flashman, but
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
I do. The one thing, and again, the art in this is great, and I mean, I really feel all four of the books, the artwork, Jack was, on top form and really going
Yeah.
into detail a lot
Oh
more
yeah.
on
Yeah.
these books. Uh, but I really love the last panel, which has the end right next to the
Yeah.
22, which is,
Yeah.
this is the end of Jack's Jimmy Olsen.
Yes.
So
And
thought that was a nice little touch.
I
Yes.
gotta say that as we were given as you were telling us about the pencil pages, I was flipping through Forever People again because like I love Dead Man, so like I wanted to
Yeah.
like this, and I am aware that I read it late enough at night that maybe there was more to it than I caught. So like you guys can tell me that as I flip through this, I'm afraid to read it again because again, just visually, I love this story. And I pick up a lot of it, and the seance is great, and
Yes.
like, I mean, I feel like, and I love writers, Mark. I love writers. The words matter a lot. That's actually my point. But I feel like if I took all of the word balloons away, I would understand most of what was going on and love this story. But I know I didn't feel like that when I was reading it last night.
Well, to that Marshall Rogers interview, Marshall Rogers says that he's like, you could take all the word balloons off basically any Kirby comic book and understand it. I mean, it's sort of like, George Lucas has famously said that the Star Wars movies are essentially silent films. Like,
Yeah.
the dialogue is not the important thing. It's
Well,
it's
I
the
mean,
images.
bringing up Lucas is interesting because that's the other person that I was thinking of when I was talking about Kirby. And I mean, what frustrated me the most about the prequel trilogy is I felt like Lucas had learned in the original trilogy that like he was a producer of this type of film, and that having a director and having a writer that weren't him, um but that he worked closely with is what brought out the best movie. So to 20 years later
Well,
not do that.
like
Supposedly Ron
that's
Howard and Steven Spielberg talked him into doing it himself.
yeah, because he
I
did offer it to other people.
Well, I thought he'd only offered it to them.
I
and
mean,
and
I,
and
you know,
So like my
Well,
my thing is I wish they'd said, "Hey George, that's not our thing, but you understand that there's a whole generation of young filmmakers who are really
Well,
good
but
that would
well,
love to do this with
he
you."
offered Jedi to David Lynch, and
Yeah,
when he was going through, you know, the story, Lynch was like, "You should direct this. This is your passion.
but he
You should do
didn't.
this." Which
Jedi was directed by
Richard
Richard
Marquand,
Marquand,
wow.
who
but
apparently, Richard Marquand was so uh, overwhelmed that apparently most of that movie was directed by George Lucas.
Yeah.
but which brings me back, and this is kind of a tangent, but there's that sad, terribly sad moment in The People versus George Lucas
Yes.
where Francis Ford Coppola bemoans the fact that George became a businessman.
Yeah.
In the end, he just became a producer and mourns the other George Lucas films we never got to see.
Yeah.
Right.
And I agree with that. And, I love Coppola and George and that whole relationship. And, you know,
I I
just got
tend to
sucked up in it.
I think Tad, you're actually on the line with two people who are kind of prequel apologists.
I've become one,
I mean,
but
I
I
think that
still
the
think that like these comics, like they wouldn't need apologists if they'd had a script doctor. He could have called Carrie Fisher.
I
Well,
think
he
he
had Tom
did.
Stoppard
And he had
on
Tom Stoppard working
fifth.
on, yep. I mean, and that's not that's like Pulitzer Prize winning play right there.
Right.
I
Which
mean,
I
like,
mean,
look,
Which
it,
one did
I'll go to
Stoppard
bat and
did
say
Stoppard work
Revenge of
on
the
all
Sith
of
is
them,
better than
or
Return of the Jedi. So I said it
you said Revenge of the Sith.
is better than Return of the Jedi.
I mean, in terms of pure quality, it might be, but like, A, Return of the Jedi, I was 3 and there were Ewoks. B, Revenge of the Sith, my son was 5 and there was gore. And I couldn't take him to it.
Well, look, I think that the best parts of Return of the Jedi are the best parts of pretty much the whole saga.
I agree.
Agree.
I agree.
Uh, but overall, like, look, I can quibble about dialogue stuff all day with any Star Wars movie. But I mean, I also
Absolutely.
think that and it's probably to say it's a good comparison because I think that probably Kirby thought the same thing. That like really the dialogue was just a way to move from one image to the next,
Right.
right?
Right.
So I think, I mean, and Lucas says it out loud. He's like, it's not about the dialogue. It's the music is more important than the dialogue, right? And you can see that all the way through those movies,
Right.
especially in the prequels.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
uh,
but
honestly, probably the 3 best soundtracks of the prequels. And like I say that adoring John Williams and all of his symphonies.
but I mean,
But
like this is
like the
this is
Phantom Menace soundtrack is
it's incredible. The
Amazing.
but the like here's I don't want this to turn into a George Lucas podcast, but
no,
I mean, like
but like we
here's
should
my
consider doing
pushback.
Star Wars comics at some point.
Here's my pushback to I would love to revisit the whole original Marvel run of Star Wars comics because they are fucking fascinating. Um, but uh, I think that if you gave those films, the prequels, I think the reason he went to people he knew is because they would make a movie about something instead of being about a Star Wars. Because I think that is the biggest problem with the sequel trilogy, ultimately, overall, other than not having a thematic point
Right.
that was aimed for. is that they're all about being about Star Wars. Like they're all about how somebody feels about Star Wars rather than making a point about the world we live in or teaching a valuable lesson about how
I, but
democracy is supposed to work or something like that, you
yeah,
know?
I somewhat agree, but I
And
also like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
I mean, we can all love Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, but I mean, it's like,
Well,
you know,
I mean, as you said that, I'm like, you're right. The new sequels are essentially the Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back of the
yeah,
Star Wars universe.
Right.
or
They're
the Jay,
come feel good about Star Wars.
yeah, or the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, which
Yeah.
is like, look, like that goes into a whole conversation about Kevin Smith that we have not the time to get into, but and Kevin, if you're listening, I love you. I do. I
I
think
do
that
too. I do
you
too.
could do so much better. Um,
And I'd love to
I
see more
feel
comics. I like that
feel
you're doing
like
comics again, Kevin.
I could make the Francis Ford Coppola comment about, except with Kevin, I think he got off on weed for too long.
100%.
Uh, but he's so very talented, and I just it breaks my heart that he doesn't strive for something higher. But
Yeah,
he's doing what he enjoys, and if he hears this, God bless him and
yeah,
fan base. And
I
I enjoy
love what
his
you're
stuff.
doing. So
I just feel
like
like he could do better.
yeah. I
be
mean, like
great to see
I,
more, but what you're doing, if it makes you happy, Kevin,
Yeah.
I
God bless you,
approve.
but
And
Right.
I remember
yeah,
those days at DJ's Comics in Universal City, Kevin. You're great.
but I mean, I like again, not to get off track too much, but like every time I watch Jersey Girl, and I do revisit that movie every once in a
I
while,
do too.
I
I love that
think
movie.
I think there was the moment when he said, "Okay, it's time to try a little bit more," and he just got spanked. He got spanked critically. His fans hated it for whatever reason. Everybody was like, "This is shit. I don't want to see this." And it's like, and he just retreated. He
Well,
retreated into
I think he
weed
also
and
got caught in the Benefer
well, sure,
vortex.
but that's part of
Right.
the whole thing. But I mean, it's
Right.
also like
But I
it
love that
was.
movie.
I think that
That's one of
movie
my
is.
favorite movies of his.
I mean, like that movie is not like earth-shaking masterpiece or anything like that, but it's what
Right.
it is. For what it is, it's a
Right.
very lovely, sweet little film about loving
Right.
your daughter, you know,
Right.
and um God bless him. Like I would
Yeah.
like him to do, and I mean, but he's
Clerks
revisited
3 had a
that.
lot of that going on too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, Clerks 3 was actually a moment where I was like, Jesus, are you really doing this? This is like that was a moment of bravery in the middle of a lot of pablum he's been putting out lately,
Right.
right? Because that was a brave choice and an extreme choice, and it was. I mean, I still have quibbles with that movie, but
Right.
the choices he made there. Anyway, let's talk about Forever People if we want
Yes.
to.
Well, I was actually thinking that we might be moving on to the two that we love at this point, because
Well,
I thought unless you had
I,
more to say about Forever People,
I,
I kind of thought
you
that, that
know,
was all what spun out of Forever People.
well, it's part of what's, but I mean, I do want to talk about this dead man thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh, I think that what we see here, and uh, I'm gonna, I'm gonna, we're getting to the point where I really have to kind of go head to head with some of the Kirbyite theories on life or theories on these works, because, you know, there is this whole sort of attitude that, oh, these books were selling really well, you know, but no one knew about it. Or, you know, that they were, you know, that they were tearing off the covers to list them as returns, and then they were selling like mad, right? Or if only there had been a direct market. And I wouldn't argue with the direct market thing. If there had been a direct market, these might have been bigger hits, right? but there wasn't. And the idea is, I'm going to say this right now, the fact that Dead Man is showing up in one of these books strikes me as Kirby is trying to drum up interest. I think he knows that the books are not selling the way he wants them to, and he's trying to bring things in. I think that um, the other interesting thing about this book is that you see the synopsis prepared by Mark Evanier and Steve Sherman. So I think again, going back to that Marshall Rogers book, Marshall Rogers had no good words for Forever People. He was like, it's Kirby trying to do hippies, and he doesn't understand hippies at all. And so I think he is like I think he knows that this book is on life support, and he's trying to do something to turn that around. And it doesn't work because Jack Kirby does not, I don't think Jack Kirby knows Dead Man from Adam.
Yeah.
Other than probably he knew that it was an Neil Adams thing, and he was buddies with Neil Adams, or at least friendly with Neil Adams, and
Right.
thought, oh, if we got to throw a DC character in here to try to goose sales, I'll use one of Neil's characters, you know.
Well, first of all, the art, the seance, I'm playing a medium in my next show, so thinking of this great panel on page 14 with the Kirby triangle surrounding them,
Oh,
that it's just a magnificent page. And I love that rendering on A at the bottom of 13 and B at the bottom of 14. I just love his rendering of Dead Man.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, and then of course page 15, I mean it's
that,
just a great
that
scene.
top panel. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, for me, it strikes me as kind of a meta thing here. You know, Neil Adams has been doing the covers for a lot of these, and now his character is pulling in, and it feels like a natural mingling to me of Jack and Neil, the old guard and the new guard coming
Mm-hmm.
together in this moment. And that's what I really appreciated about it, and thrilled to see that Dead Man will be back next month, um,
Right.
because he's a character I care about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I just, it just struck me as a moment in comics history of Jack drawing Dead Man, which seemed insane to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Not
Because I mean, but I would, and I agree with that. I think that seance sequence is the best part of the whole book. The Frankenstein riff is dull. Um, but also, like, do we really think that Dead Man was necessary for this plot? No. It's just,
right.
I don't know. And plus, I will tell you this, I am really, I think that the powers of the Forever People are woefully undefined, and just what do they do? Who is this person? I mean, like, like, even with a power set that was interesting, but I mean, like,
Everybody
Seraphim.
has a different sonic screwdriver.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's like, oh, okay, here, oh, you need this? Oh, well, I've got the little capsule for it or whatever, and it's like,
Right.
what is this? And the thing is I, I liked it better when they all just, with their powers combined, they brought Captain Planet to save the day. I liked that
Right.
better. I thought that was a more, like, I I would love it if the all of the Forever People just didn't really have any powers. They were like anything other than being new gods and having maybe being stronger and whatever. But their power was that they could combine into the God, I can't even remember
Omni-Man.
the Omni-Man. Yeah.
What
Like
it was?
where is the Omni-Man? What that was the most interesting thing you had in the I would have rather I would have I would have rather had all the Forever People get thrown into the cosmic uh, trap thing and the Omni-Man be trapped like this book is so frustrating to me. Okay.
Infinity Man. I'm sorry.
Infinity Man, sorry. Sorry. Look, it's been what?
Go back to your domain, Infinity Man. Mantis is your master too.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know I should know the name of Infinity Man, but like Infinity Man hasn't been around for what? We're in issue 9.
Right.
Didn't he disappear in like issue 3? Like it's
Right.
been a half a year.
Well,
Yeah.
man, you just can't call the Infinity Man for anything, right?
Well, isn't he infinite? I mean, like,
Your understanding of infinity
is limited? I don't know.
infinitely limited.
Anyway, no, I think that I just think I the one thing you can say about New Gods and Mr. Miracle is that there is a cohesive idea of what those books are about, right? He goes off on tangents, but like there is a direct point to what is happening, right? He never found this with Forever People. I don't know why, like every once in a while Darkseid shows up and tries to tell, it's almost like he's trying to recruit them to his side. And
Right.
like that would be an interesting fucking story of uh like why didn't you make this book about Darkseid trying to corrupt the youth of New Genesis, you know? Like why don't you come over to my side, Come to the dark side. We have cookies, that kind of thing, right? Like that would be an awesome series. Like if somebody came to me and was like, "Hey, you want to revive Forever People? Hey, call me." But that's what I would do. I would be like, "Okay, here's the youth of New Genesis and they're struggling against, that also would have made them more interesting characters if they were struggling against the idea of like, oh, maybe this is better. Uh anyway, I think we can move on from that now. But I really, quite honestly, as we read through these things, God, I talk too much. Um,
No, you don't.
as we read through these things, like I found Jimmy Olsen to Jimmy Olsen read like a work for hire that he was like, okay, I'm doing this, so I might as well try to tie it into what I'm doing over here, you know. Uh, but it never made me angry. But sometimes Forever People makes me angry just because it doesn't feel like it has a point. Except for, hey man, I want to appeal to the kids, but the fact that you call them
I'll
the
take it a
kids
step
means
further is that it sometimes makes me angry because not only does it not have a point, but I feel like it's filled with great idea fragments that are such fragments that the Forever People haven't really been picked up by other creators later on. There just wasn't quite enough to mine there. Um, and I almost wonder if like he'd let Mark Evanier write scripts, it could have changed things, or had a kid just taking these cool things. I mean,
well,
I,
he's
I
got
all but guarantee the stories themselves came out of these kids that were coming and hanging out with him.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the San Diego Six String Mob was
Right.
for the 4 pages they were on or 4 panels, that was the San Diego kids. I think I just think that it's so bad. I mean, like, I can find something good to say about. I can almost always find good things to say about New Gods, aside from the art. Let's baseline. We're talking about Jack Kirby book. That means the art's great, pretty much.
Right.
Um, but I mean, I don't. I mean, like it. This whole book smacks of, hey, what's happening, fellow kids?
Right.
You know, and you just go, oh, okay, whatever that is. I don't know. I don't know. I'm done. I'm done ranting.
Yeah. Well, let's talk
Yeah.
some new gods.
Ah,
The new gods soon will be making another
being
run.
another god. Uh,
Also, I guess this would be a good moment to say that DC is printing a facsimile edition of New Gods #1. Uh,
Oh, that's right.
Solicits are out now for January.
wait, they're issuing another replica edition?
A
Facsim?
facsimile of New Gods 1.
Wa- Wow, that's amazing. I wish they would do more of those.
We were just talking about this in the comic shop Wednesday night.
Sean and I were having a gathering for a friend of ours and ended up at Graham Cracker Comics in Andersonville before. And I was sort of like, how many facsimile editions do you need to do? It seemed like the whole damn wall was like half the wall was facsimile editions.
I will say that as cool as it is that there's a New Gods facsimile edition, it makes it the fourth coolest facsimile edition coming out in January
It's
because
a
to
banner year,
celebrate
banner month.
to celebrate their 50th anniversary, um, Fantagraphics are starting what they're calling their replicant editions, and they're only doing one a month. They're not going to like overload us, but they're starting out with Love and Rockets Volume One, Number One. But also at
Replicant edition.
DC, they're actually doing Treasury Edition facsimiles. So the bigger
Sure, yeah,
ones
yeah.
Yep.
of Superman versus Spider-Man by Jerry Conway, Russ Andrew, Neil Adams, and John Romita Sr., and Superman and Spider-Man from Marvel Treasury Edition number 28 from Jim Shooter and John Buscema.
I mean,
So,
look, I will say I reserve I do love the Treasury edition facsimiles. I just I, I here here's part of what scares me about all of this is that I often like with okay, with what it seemed with both of the major publishers right now being owned by large conglomerates, right?
right.
And basically using the books as like proof of concept for a movie or whatever, something they can exploit later in a more mainstream media, right? That like ever since the 80s, there has been these whispers of, well, you know what we could do is we could just start doing reprints all the time, you
Yeah.
know? And um I don't want that.
I don't either.
I mean,
I don't
I'm not excited by the 75 Batman books that are on the market right now. But I'm reading
I
two
don't
of them.
actually think it's likely either. I do think that we, particularly as
I mean, I don't think the
graphic
medium.
novels eat up more and more of the market share, particularly young adult graphic novels and whatnot, I could see a more select list of superhero comics coming out, rather than the 7 Batman books. It's 4 Batman books and and 2 Superman books and a bunch of miniseries. Um, but I think in a lot of ways that will actually give more oxygen for
Oh, look,
people doing other things. So I don't know that I think it would actually wind up being bad for the market.
I don't necessarily know. I think here's what I think. I don't think the medium is going anywhere. But I would hazard to guess that if you asked most of the retailers how their business would go if Marvel and DC stopped generating new material.
Well, and again, like if they completely stop generating new material, that's going to be an issue.
Yeah.
But I
If they
like
stop taking up as much shelf space, that's a different thing.
I look, I would be a big advocate for both of the big two cutting back
Right. I
their
mean,
material.
if you were looking at like a dozen titles a month from Marvel and DC rather than a dozen titles a week from Marvel and DC, um, I don't think it would actually cut superhero sales as much as a lot of people think. Um, it
Well, I
just
mean,
make those dozen titles would sell better.
Right.
well, yeah, instead of having
And
if you had instead of having 12 Batman titles or Batman related titles, you had two,
right,
Batman and Detective. Uh, I would hazard to guess that there's quite a few people who are buying all of those books
right,
who would just buy,
Superman and Wonder Woman.
yeah,
I mean, and that's like if I were the head of DC or Marvel, like if I was the head of DC, you would have Batman and Detective, you would have Superman in action, you would have Wonder Woman, and you would have the Justice League. So you would have six ongoing titles. And then I would put out 6 to 12 limited series titles a month with no more than one additional Batman or one additional Superman or one additional Wonder Woman among those at any given time.
well,
I, you
I
know,
would go ahead.
to me, I mean, this conversation reminds me. I've been reading about uh, Hanna and Barbera, and the decline in quality that went on as they went on. But Joe's insistence, he didn't want to fire people. He wanted to keep
Yeah.
people working, right?
Mhm.
And part of me thinks, well, they've reached this size, as Jack never wanted to let anyone go. Like he didn't want to
Right.
let an inker go because that guy has a family to
That
support.
guy's, yeah,
I mean, at some point they've reached these levels. There are people who, need jobs in this
sure.
industry. Now, do we think that the industry,
I mean that's
I
I mean
mean,
that's where it gets
Tom Brevoort
interesting
cares, I think.
because
Well,
I mean what I wonder is again like I mean first of all it's work for hire so like there are natural off points for any of these people. You don't necessarily just get rid of all the stuff at once. Um and second I am not certain at all that most shops wouldn't be able to support the necessary. We'd just have more crime comics. We might have romance comics again. We'd have more horror comics. It would give oxygen and shelf space to publishers that don't get it right now because there's so many stores that can't afford to gamble on not having shelf space for Marvel and DC.
sure. Well, look, I think that I think that when you're talking about keeping people working, I mean, we all want that, right? But I mean, we are talking about a anytime you talk about things like art, right? That some art is going to connect, some art is not going to connect.
Right.
And that is why that is why, like say when you talk about actors, that at any given moment, 2% of the actors in this country are actually working, you know, the other 98% are not, right? And that's because there's far more people who want to do this work than there is work to be done. And
Right.
that's never going to change. It's never going to change. But the fact of the matter is like if there's no market for it, then like if the people who are putting money into this stuff determine there's no market for it or there's no way for them to generate revenue with it,
Right.
uh like there's no like I don't think that corporations need to make as much profit as they do, but they certainly need to make profit.
Right.
Otherwise, there's no way to maintain it, right?
I mean,
And
I would certainly love the tax code to change in such a way where they have to make profit by making profit rather than going,
right,
oh, I'm going to shift this stuff around.
sure, absolutely. But like I think that I worry about this stuff all the time
Yeah.
because we've gotten into this point where stuff isn't making money the way it used to, and yet,
Or it is, but not for the people that it used to make the money for.
yeah, but I mean, like even at like what like I don't consider like this idea of like a movie that makes $1 billion, right? I don't think we're ever going to see that again, ever. I just think the market has changed, and I think that the
Well, I would
economics. I
actually
think,
argue that having the one movie that made $1 billion rather than like in the 90s, we had, you know, 50 to 60 movies that'd make 20 to 40 million dollars, um, I think is healthier for the overall market.
I 100% agree with that,
Right.
but I would also say the market doesn't support that anymore. Like people
Uh,
don't go out and see those movies. They just don't.
well, I mean, since theaters aren't the only source of revenue, and since the studios have very much stepped away from trying, I don't know if I agree.
Well, I mean, I don't think that I don't think streaming is yet to be financially viable for anybody.
That I agree. I mean that I don't completely disagree with. Though I think it depends a lot on what your budget is.
I mean, I think sorry, this is
Yeah.
way off the Kirby discussion, but I
It
mean,
is
like
and it
I just
isn't. I mean,
but
again,
I like let's bring it back to Kirby because I think we
right.
could go down this rabbit hole because like I think all of us in this group would say, Jack, don't do Jimmy Olsen, don't do Forever People, and put more effort into doing New Gods and Mr. Miracle, and you probably would have ended up with a better product.
I mean, I would change that just a little bit and say keep Forever People, but work with the kids on it rather than having it be your own. And they
Well,
might wind up making the other books better too,
the
without
other,
actually having to have an editor and writers. Just the fact that
yeah,
you're doing that one gab session.
I I think the other thing that really needs to be talked about is or considered is that everybody says, like even Ear has said this, I think Steve Sherman has said this, I think a lot of people at DC have said this, is that Kirby's idea was that he was going to create all this stuff and then turn it over to other people.
Right.
And why? Why didn't that happen? Right? Like I think a you know, if he'd given I think if he'd given Forever People to say a Denny O'Neil, who
Right.
we think of as an old man of comics, before he
But he
passed,
wasn't then.
but in 1970 he was, like, can you imagine a Forever People coming from somebody who had the mindset of the hard traveling heroes,
Yeah. Denny
you
O'Neil
know?
was 31 in 1970.
Still young
Exactly.
enough
That's
to
that that's totally my point.
yeah. I mean, like all I'm saying is I think that I th there was this Jack needed to do so many pages, right? Needed to turn in so many pages for DC, that was the contract. And he didn't I don't like if he really wanted that to happen, I just don't see why he didn't start the process to do that, right? I mean, I my personal
I mean, he
feeling
may
is
have wanted it to happen, but I mean, was Carmine and the rest of the team behind that idea?
right. Well, he certainly didn't, but he also didn't want anybody to come in and write,
Right.
right? Like we know that for a fact. I
Right.
mean, and the thing is like the only the only person with any sort of plotting or writing credit on any of these is Mark Evanier and Steve Sherman, who were Jack's employees, right? Rather than collaborators, like collaborators in that sense of equal footing, right? I don't know. I mean, like, I just think there's so much potential here. Even for all that I poo-poo the Forever People, and the Forever People just makes me angry. Um, there was stuff there. Like, there is a platform there to tell some interesting stories, but those were not like Jack Kirby was not the person to make tell those interesting stories. Anyway,
Yeah.
let's talk about Bug. I like Bug.
Bug was fun.
Uh, I, you know what I really admire about this issue of New Gods is that it shows that it really does delve into that idea that no matter how perfect you think your society is, somebody is getting the shit into the stick, right?
Right.
Here's
Right.
this perfect, you know, new Genesis where everyone is happy and everyone is beautiful and everybody lives fully. And then, oh, except for these people who live in a big ant hill, you know? And but like you also, in and this is not me dogging on Jack, but it's we have another white savior narrative essentially, even though they're all white. But I mean, like it's like here's Forager, her, and he's actually from New Genesis. He's not a bug, and I'm like, okay, all right. But yeah, I will say, let's see, basic thoughts. I love how uh, um, oh, hold on. Uh, uh, Eve Donner writes her plays so she can pay for her fancy apartment. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think that's ever happened unless you're maybe like, David Mamet or
Neil
Neil
Simon.
Simon.
Neil Simon. Uh, uh, it's yet another thing where I think Jack you see Jack's perception of certain lives that are not necessarily, you know, I don't think Jack ever thought he was living high on the hog, but I don't know. He had a nice house in California with a pool, so I guess he thought that everybody. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. Um, but no, I really like this story. I love the I liked seeing Mantis come back um in this environment. I mean, it sort of suggests that he's one of the bugs, but is he? I don't know. Is he just using that to manipulate people? Um, I like the I like the hierarchy thing with Prime One and the Queen, and all of that was really cool. And it's actually part and parcel of the story rather than just being something that gets thrown at the wall and then okay. So, um, I don't know. Somebody else talk. I talk too much.
I think we might be reaching our conclusion, though we should definitely get into
Mr.
Mr.
Miracle.
Miracle some.
Yeah, I didn't love the story of the bug.
You didn't,
I did not.
but it did make you angry.
It did not make me angry.
It's just there.
Left
I
me
mean, I
cold.
look, I do think that New Gods goes off on tangents a little too often. Like, I would rather they
I
stick
have
to,
characters, but you don't show me the characters.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. I mean,
I
I
felt like
like
it was more a world building issue.
Right.
I mean, the
yeah,
great issue here is the Mr. Miracle because it fleshes out both Scott and Barda and does
Hyman
world building
Right.
and introduces Hyman and
or He-Man or
right,
Himon. I don't know.
right.
Like, I sort of
Ema.
take I I sort of am disturbed by the idea of a character named Hyman, but um,
I mean,
I
this is
do
right
think
around
that
the time of The Godfather, Hyman Roth.
yeah, yeah. I mean, although, I
Yeah, that's
think
what Mark was thinking.
I know it
yeah,
was.
I do. I, I don't think I'm crazy in saying this is Kirby injecting himself into the narrative.
Yeah,
Sure looks like Kirby.
it really
Yeah.
does, doesn't it?
Um, he seems to be the creator of everything, you
Yeah.
know. Um,
But everybody else takes the credit and then they kill
yeah,
him
yeah,
over and over and over again.
yes. Um,
Darkseid doesn't want him to exist.
right. Um, I do think, I mean, like, I think that this I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like this character, like, again, this kind of goes back to how much was Jack really fleshing this stuff out? How much was he thinking about how this all fit together? Or is it just stuff being thrown at the wall?
I mean,
Because
more and more, I think of, and I'm just assuming that you did your research well enough that this is mostly true. I'm thinking of Jack through the lens of family man all day, work all night, PTSD, sleep deprived, and I think that so much of this is like his trauma fever dream.
I think so too. I think certainly, like, I think we can tell that whenever Jack deals with violence or warfare or action, as he called it, like, it's part of his war experience coming out. I
But
mean,
I'm also talking about the trauma of feeling like he had done all those things at Marvel and the world had
yeah.
given Stan credit. That's traumatic. That's,
And I think I
you
would,
know,
I would, I would love to see. I don't have this in front of me, but I would like to see time-wise where this relates to the publication of Origins of Marvel Comics, because that would be
right,
kind of in the same area.
right.
Uh, I think
How about draw comics the Marvel way?
what I mean, yeah. But I mean, like, how to draw comics the Marvel way. That's an interesting conversation, right? Okay, because like how to draw comics the Marvel way is obviously based on the Kirby uh style,
Hmm.
right? Kirby style sets Marvel. But and I would like to think that if Kirby was still working there, it would have been Stan Lee and Jack Kirby present how to draw comics the Marvel way.
Right.
But did did Jack have the technical drafting skill that Buscema did to do
Quite
that
possibly
book?
no. No, no, I understand,
Yeah.
but I'm not talking at all about whether anybody had wronged Jack. I'm
Yeah, no.
talking about I'm playing armchair psychologist
No.
and to the fact that making these comics may have actually been very therapeutic for him. I mean, we've heard no
100%.
indication that he wasn't a phenomenal father. We've heard no indication that he wasn't great to those kids that came and knocked on his door
Oh yeah.
to sit at the like. So somehow, despite all of this trauma, all of this whatnot, he was a very easygoing, jovial person during daytime hours, and then he drew all night.
Yeah. No, look, I'm not look, I that actually it just came out because I was thinking about it. I was thinking about
Right.
the relationship of, Origins of Marvel Comics, which I think is when you read that book, uh Stan always mentions the artist, but never
Right.
like it's a whitewash. And it's
Right.
a whitewash on a corporate level. It's
Right.
it's like these because I think Stan uh, to I guess to Stan's credit, I think Stan always understood I don't own these characters,
Right.
They're not my characters. They belong to the company. He's a company man. So let's just but
Though on the
and when
flip
you
side, he
brought
was
up
also family. So like he might have had some idea that he may one day own the companies or the
well,
characters.
I you know,
Didn't
I
entirely work out that way, but
I mean, I think Martin Goodman was I don't think
definitely the
I don't
bad
think
guy.
I don't think Martin Goodman cared much whether Stan was his cousin, nephew, whatever.
No.
Um,
No.
I think that he found him useful for his
Yes.
business. Um, but sorry, it just when you brought up how to draw comics the Marvel way, it just made me think about that.
Yeah, no,
And
I
like,
don't know that Jack would have been. I feel like Jack is the guy that could have taught you by sitting next to you and working with you, but like slowing down enough to put together the book in a way that was
or talking about anatomy in the way
right.
that Buscema does, or
Right.
that a
No, he would have been, you
character,
just kind of do this and you do
yeah,
this and
yeah, yeah, no, and I mean like that's Kirby's genius. I'm not trying to
right.
denigrate Kirby by
Right.
saying
No,
that.
I'm not
I'm just
either.
saying, but it's like conveying on a technical level how to do what they did and using
Well, I'm not even
Kirby's.
100% certain Kirby understood what he did.
Oh,
And
I
he
don't think he
just did
did.
it.
I think he
Yeah.
just did. Yeah, I think you're 100% right. But I think, but here's where I'm sort of leading up to is that I think that Hyman, I'm just going to say it's Hyman, um,
Right.
uh, seems to me was part of the deal that we learned about in the Pact with the trading of the two sons,
Right.
right? It seems like, I don't know if it's said, but it seems like he was part of that.
Could be.
And he wasn't in that story,
Right.
uh, at least by my memory. Maybe he was. Maybe there was a character that was there,
Not by name.
not by
Though
name.
though
Yeah,
with his with that last scene where he's telling Darkseid, "Here you have your war." I wonder if he wasn't part of the deal as much as he was Darkseid's ace in the hole. I don't actually
right,
want peace, so I
right,
need to arrange for there not to be peace. How can I
right.
do that? Oh, I can have somebody train scot free to escape.
Right. Well, I mean, and I also think I don't know, it's so like how many like and again, I really like this issue. I like this issue a ton.
Right.
I like it gives us an answer as to why Barda and the female Furies are sort of they're like part of the Dark
Right.
Side Army, but yet they're not.
Hmm.
I think last time we talked about that. Like
Hmm.
what is the female Fury's position
Right.
in Apocalypse hierarchy? And this sort of gives us the sense of something personal that's causing Barda to do what she's doing. Um, I think that there's all sorts of really interesting things going on. I just, I also, at one point I was like, how many people, like how many escape artists were like, okay, so he met the original Mr. Miracle and learned escape artistry from him, but then he also
Right.
learned it from Hyman, and it's like, okay, I mean, like, and
And there was
everybody
the
can
whole
have,
crew of other ones that were learning from Hyman that like they
yeah,
worked
yeah,
together and taught each other. And
Yeah, I mean this.
how
I
many
mean
origin stories do we need?
every every character, has their unique little universe, right?
right.
This reminds me, and I know this is out there, but Mr. Miracle kind of reminds me of the Cars universe, where everyone are they're cars, right?
Right.
I mean, are you familiar with that concept? I mean,
I am.
everyone in
Oh yeah,
cars is cars. There's no driver.
right.
In Mr. Miracle world, everything is an escape trap.
Yeah,
Everything is a magician's trick.
right.
And
Yeah, yeah.
it's just who knew this world existed where everything was about, like being
Well,
an escapist.
and every time somebody catches Scott, instead of just like shooting him,
Right.
they're like, okay, we're gonna put you in this thing. And it's like,
Exactly.
this is what I do. What do you it's funny because it's there obviously we know that there's a Steranko influence here,
Right.
and but I mean like there's also clearly Jack must have watched the Batman TV show because it's always the same fucking thing.
Right.
Okay, here's this crazy ass contraption we're gonna put, and
Well, his kids would have been the right age.
I would, I mean, I do like Mr. Miracle. Don't get me wrong. I love Mr. Miracle and
full
Bart and
stop. This is the
Oberon.
best of these books. Period.
But I would like it more if there were, if I could feel like I was learning escape artistry, right?
Yeah.
If if I could see, oh, he did this, he did that, instead of usually, oh, it's some gadget,
Yeah.
you know,
Or the mother
or
box.
the mother box. I feel like
Yeah.
that would that would be a better choice
Yeah.
Right.
for
But I
me.
mean but
But
that's like if like what would be awesome, right? In my mind, is if Kirby got this idea, did a couple of issues, and then turned it over to Steranko.
Yeah.
Because then, like, Steranko could have been like, I mean, and it's probably a lot of the magician don't reveal your tricks thing, but the idea, like, I would love to see something where, Scott is trussed up, they're gonna kill him. He doesn't have the mother box. He doesn't have any of his gear. And he has to like dislocate his own shoulder to get out of a straitjacket or whatever it is, like those things that like that is I think that is sort of what I Sean hits the nail on the head. Like I would really love to see that. I would love to see the actual discipline is required to be an escape artist. Um, and then we can, you can fancy it up with all sorts of stuff. But I mean, it's like I remember that thing where it was oh, what was it? He was trapped in that building and they put him in like the car wash thing where it moved him
yes,
through. And it's like, oh, how did you get out? It's like, well, my shoes had laser beams in them, and it's like, what? Why didn't like, and they never check him. They never check him for stuff. Yeah.
Right.
It's like, you know, in a way, it's a great point. In another way, it's sort of like, yeah, but it's comic book hokum, you know. It's
Right.
like, you know, I don't know. But yes, I feel that criticism. I feel that idea of like it would be really cool to learn something about escape artistry. But I mean, like, I think we all know the answer is like Jack didn't know anything about being an escape artist. He just knew that that was an interesting idea, you know.
Right.
And uh but I actually I love this book. I actually like Hyman as a character. Uh
I do too.
it's uh
Though I'm also wondering if he's as good as we think he is.
You mean in terms of like where the plot goes?
Yeah.
No comment.
Yeah.
I'm not going to
Hey,
blow it. You've never read these.
Exactly.
I mean,
I mean,
I
that
do sort
ending
of,
scene was a real twist.
yeah. Um, uh, uh, I had a point I was going to make. I kind of think there was a missed opportunity. Like, I want at some point for Oberon and Hyman to meet. I
I
can't remember if that happens, but
I don't know. Looking at page 10, the middle panel, as Barda breaks through the wall. It's not exact, but that really reminds me of Jack's cover for Incredible Hulk #5, which I'll show that
mhm,
Yeah.
to you guys on screen.
mhm.
It's not exact, the arms, but it's definitely the same energy.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the same artist, no surprise, but I just remember reading it and going, this looks really familiar.
right.
And it just, I just thought that was an interesting parallel.
Well, I mean, I think that, there's a lot of times Jack does use some like the same kind of posing and stuff.
Hmm.
Certainly like with the panel layout and how he puts action in panels. I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't a very similar sort of layout to this in 6 other books he did, with somebody busting through a wall and that big panel in the middle.
Right. But it just, this is in no ways a criticism. This is a really cool thing
Yeah,
that
yeah,
as soon as I saw it, and I was like, that's the Hulk bursting out of, after
yeah.
Tyrannus, I think. Um, anyway.
I also love in a way in the same way that in the New Gods we got to see that there's this sort of like oppressed underclass on New Genesis that the people of Apocalypse, while not necessarily while are sort of like in for a penny in for a pound with being part of the dark side, you know even though they're an oppressed underclass, they're just as they're absolutely willing to jump in and grab somebody if they need to.
They're
Yeah.
true believers.
Yep. But anyway,
But
I don't know. I
we
thought I
should,
thought it was a good issue.
yeah,
Yes.
it was. We should wrap it up because I need to go out to Dr. Ramos's new comic shop and
Hey,
figure out what my
hey.
role's gonna be.
Nice.
Um, but
And I'm
for go
sorry
ahead.
I'm late. I was sorry I was late,
No,
guys.
it's completely okay. For
No.
for for Mark Pratt and Sean Harklerode, this has been the Fourth World Book Club on 22 panels, and we will see you after the next page.